Remember the procession of the old young men, from dole queue to corner and back again, from the pinched, packed street to the peak of slag in the bite of the winter with a shovel and bag, with a drooping fag and turned-up collar, stamping for the cold at the ill-lit corner, dragging through the squalor with their hearts like lead, staring at the hunger and the shut pithead, nothing in their pockets, nothing home to eat, lagging from the slag heap to the pinched, packed street. Remember the procession of the old young men. It shall never happen again.
Lower wages had failed to pull the industry out of its decline. So the mine owners were repeatedly urged to change their methods and machinery. As with the other old industries, the way was thought to lie with rationalization, into fewer and larger companies with money to spend on modernization. The Coal Mines Act of 1930 included a scheme to enforce amalgamation, but owners, stubbornly independent, resisted.
Mergers were clearly the thing to do, but the 5 coal owners wouldn't agree together to accept the position, and it was dropped, which was a great pity, because that was a chance of doing something way ahead of nationalization, to put in better techniques, better management, better marketing, and altogether it would have been to the benefit of the industry and the men working in it.
The fragmented British industry was in sharp contrast to Germany, where great combines controlled mines that were more mechanized and more efficient. Germany's productivity, the output of coal for each man per shift, had risen over 80%, while Britain's had gone up only 10% since 1913.
104,7 Millionen Tonnen. 109,7 Millionen Tonnen.
The contrast with the rest of Europe was just as great. Polish and German coal exports had risen in a period when Britain's had fallen by 45%.
At the coal phase, well, they were not much in advance of us anywhere in the mines I visited. And so their overall productivity would be higher than ours, but I attribute that more to their efficient haulage and transport facilities in the mines, rather than better productivity at the coal phase. They worked what they call the horizon system of mining, where level roadways were used, and therefore locomotive haulage was almost general in Germany.
The fact that nationalization was always threatening, people didn't want to invest money because they didn't believe that under nationalization they'd ever get it back. Who were making a reasonable profit, who felt that their duty was to set aside some of that and spend it on new equipment.
Mechanization, automatic picks and coal cutters, allowed coal to be got much faster, but British mines were way behind with it. In 1930, only a quarter of the coal was cut by machines at the face. In Germany, almost all. Some managers argued their conditions were unsuitable, and machinery was introduced patchily.
Then came the time that we put conveyors on the face. Now these conveyors, in the first instance, were shaker conveyors, conveyors that took coal on a sort of chute which moved back and forward, filling from the end of the chute into hutches. And then we've got belt conveyors. These were the first major innovation. Slow in application, and a lot of people very frightened of them.
We were a bit wary about working really on the conveyors because of the accidents that were happening in 8 and 9. The pit slowed down, and it was getting more dangerous for us all the time because people were getting killed then more or less every day or every week at least. Every day you see somebody come out on a stretcher with 2 or 3 men shoving them on.
By the end of the 1930s, mechanization was more widespread, but there was a limit to what could be done. Even if they had the money to spend, the majority of mines were old, with twisting roadways unsuited to long-distance conveyors. Government schemes to keep up prices by sharing out orders had helped many of the least efficient mines to hang on. This had been better for miners' jobs, but not for long-term modernization.
Coal is one of the most vital raw materials required for war production. It's the chief source of power for the factories now forging the weapons with which we shall deal Hitler the knockout blow.
Then the pressures were really great, because we were asked to work Sundays as well then. And I'm not sure whether we were offered double time, but we were offered an extra bonus for working a Sunday. And they wanted you to work as many shifts as you possibly could then, for quite a while.
The call for output brought a crisis. When targets weren't reached, the high rate of absenteeism was blamed. Strikes, though illegal, still continued. Most were over peace raids.
For a special drive in old Durham pits for one...
To try and smooth these problems, pit committees were set up at each mine.
Well, what about it? Well, Mr. Chairman, what I want to say is this. All of us here in this pit, and all over Durham too, aye, and in every pit all over the country, we're going to do our best. We're going to see we get that target.
Aye, Tom, that's right. But with only...
I would try to get the target, but I think...
No good at all just asking the chaps to slog harder. They'll do it all right, we all know that. They'll work like hell for the target.
The Pit Production Committee in Wartime was formed and pledged ourselves to do everything in our power to produce all the coal we could, to eliminate as many strikes as we could, because as miners we felt that the biggest enemy was fascism.
Mines came increasingly under the government's wing. A wartime organization was created to run the mines on the basis of national service. Miners were bombarded with propaganda. Exhortations came from all quarters.
I have a message for you from the county regiment. It is because we have so many miners with us that the Durham Light Infantry has got the great fighting tradition that it has. Most of you now are older men and boys. We've taken many fine miners from you, but there are a grand lot of miners left to carry on with your battle, which is the same as ours.
Help for the coal mines is now coming forward in the shape of Mr. Bevan's Ballotees. Many would naturally have preferred one of the fighting services, but the majority have taken it well, and they find conditions better than they expected.
Good jaws, steel jaws. Don't be frightened about the dropping on them.
Sure.
What size your hat?
7 1/4, please.
7 1/4.
Preliminaries are much the same as if they were joining the army. A miner's helmet is quite as honourable and necessary as a soldier's tin hat. As they come up from the mine after their first spell down below, they've already assumed the appearance of old hands. These boys, drawn from all classes of the community, present a wide variety of types.
They tell me you're a public school boy. It'll be a bit of a change for you going in the mine, won't it?
Yes, it will, but I feel as though it's a necessity that someone's got to do the job, and so I think I'm doing my part in helping.
The old-fashioned layout and equipment had held back production most of all. And in 1944, a full inquiry into the state of the mines was chaired by Sir Charles Reed. The Reed report was a damning indictment of the pre-war industry and its failure to invest.
In Britain, there's been a lack of cooperation between the mine workers and employers. The employers have been prepared neither to accept the principle of the survival of the fittest, nor fully to abandon their traditional individualism. The short view has too often prevailed.
It may have given some ammunition to the Labour Party to nationalise the mining industry. But that was a very hot potato before my father's report was even published. On the other hand, the fact is that if someone hasn't courage to try and get the advancement this country needed in techniques of coal mining, we were going to lose the place, because other countries were doing a good deal more in some cases than we were.
With the Labour victory, nationalisation of the mines was bound to happen. It seemed the only way of ending the industrial relations troubles and had been party policy for years.
The Labour Party's great victory shows that the country is ready for a new policy.
When we lately formed the government, the party government, he sent for me and he said, I want you to nationalise the mines. And seat in the cabinet. If there'd been no seat in the cabinet, I would have refused it once. But anyway, there's a seat in the cabinet. So I said, all right. He gave me no instructions about